Okay, perfect. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an incredible guest with us today, one who's going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than Brother Roosevelt. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam, mighty God body.
Yes, sir. This means so much to us and to myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast. I also want to make sure that we give you credit and a shout out for always showing love in the comments as well and watching us, Brother Roosevelt. That means a lot to us, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, so the first question we have, sir, right now, one of the number one topics that is going on social media and in the world is there any hope for the youth?
Yes, sir. The hope for the youth lies in those of us who understand the mission, the purpose of what there is to be called youth. You know, I would say, if you go into the Bible, there's a verse in Matthew 19:14. It says, "Suffer unto me the little children, for such is the kingdom of God." In 1995, after the Million Man March, that verse stuck with me because that was in the period of me doing deep studies, and I wanted to know, why would Christ have to be stating that to the disciples? You know, if you go study that verse, it deals with a lot of the disciples did not want to be bothered with the youth. And when they came around Christ, they were being pushed over to the side, they were being shunned. And Christ stated that in Matthew 19:14, "Suffer unto me the little children, for such is the kingdom of God." And for you to call young people the kingdom of God was baffling to me. How could this statement associate with young people? You know, so that sent me into deep studies. And then from that, I had to recognize the creed or the pledge I had just taken from the minister at the Million Man March to come back to build schools, to build, you know, training facilities where young people could be given the proper knowledge of how to avoid the street life. You know, the previous life that I came from was a life that I was striving to guide them from. So I had to study because I didn't find a lot of young people when I first came into the knowledge of self.
Okay, great. Yes, sir. And people are showing you love all across the country. Thank you all for watching. And both my sisters, Miriam and Naima, send the greetings. Alaikum salam, man. Okay, thank you all for watching. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. Please let us know what city you all are watching from. Okay, so we're Roosevelt. For the parents who seem to be pulling their hair out, growing gray hairs, it's like the media portrays young people, but specifically young Black men and women, as like wild or out of control. How can we fix that solution, and how can we change the narrative for people who are watching?
The narrative is spend more time providing methods and means by which young people can utilize the intelligence. It's one thing to lecture to them and give them advice, but then don't have the resources for them to apply the advice. It's one thing to tell them, oh, you need to be doing something for yourself, or you need a job, or you need this, but then you are not the person to provide the necessary resources towards those youth. So I found that it was not just to lecture to them about change. It was not just to talk to them about change, and then you didn't have the resources to facilitate that change. You know, so that's one of the things with myself. I spoke in so many schools, so many prisons, so many youth programs, where in my early days, I would go in and the youngsters would always say, "Brother Ro, that's deep, man, you deep, but a nigga gotta eat." You know, that was their number one statement, man. I like what you're saying, but if you can't provide me with the necessary ways to make this money, I'm gonna have to continue doing what I'm doing. And so I had to go within myself and try my best to find a way to help facilitate them from the street life. And in my early days, it was kind of frustrating, you know, because I thought education was the way. I was always saying, well, you need to get an education because that's what I was hearing. But I was not reflecting on what I was being taught. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, do for self. So I had to see that my way of survival was doing for self. So I had to stop repeating what I was hearing. I kept saying, get a good education, because that's what I hear other people saying, get a good education, not acknowledging that I was involved and going through the process of being re-educated through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the first grade I received in Message to the Black Man is, who is that mystery God?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it removed the spookism out of my life. And the second grade was do for self. Once the mystery God was gone and I have no God to advocate outside of the God of self and the God that came for me, and the God that came for me taught the messenger to teach me to do for self. So I immediately went into doing for self. One of my great blessings was when I came into the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I had been saved from the street life, right? And the first thing Minister Harold Muhammad told me when I came into the nation, he said, brother, what you gonna do? I said, I don't know, brother. All I know how to do is sell dope. All I know how to do is hustle. And he looked at me and said, brother, I don't want you to stop hustling. I need you to switch your product. And that's what happened. I came into a mosque where that was the theme, do for self. I came under one of the most profound educators I have ever had was Minister Harold.
Yes, sir.
My first officer at that time, his name was Brother Emil Muhammad. And he said, well, brother, come on with me. I'm gonna teach you how to run a business. And I was like, brother, I don't know. He said, well, come over here. I got a car wash. I got an embroidery company. Come run these businesses for me. And so I went to help my brother, but the money he was paying me was not used to the money I would use to handle. So in the beginning, I was like, brother, I don't know if I want to do this. And he said, well, brother, I'm not trying to take away your hustle. I need to teach you how to take that hustle and turn it into a business. So he had to allow me to mature, because I was used to going out and hustling and bringing in large quantities of money off of my hustle. I didn't know how to run a business. So him taking me into his businesses gave me the understanding on how to properly run a business, how to get to a business on time, how to get it prepared for when the customers arrive, how to have all the necessary resources to keep the business running. So Brother Emil Muhammad was able to give that to me, even though he wasn't able to give to me the type of money I was used to. So that was the beginning. And then he said, well, brother, this is not enough for you. I see you got a whole big family to take care of. So here, I'm gonna teach you how to go out and sell fruit at the red light. So the brother took us and he trained us how to take fruit and go to the red light and sell fruit. So the community we were in, they would look at me and say, man, how you come from being a big time drug dealer to selling fruit on the corner? I said, man, I'm being made into a man, you know. And they didn't know at that time, we were making it to the corner. I was get out to the mile fruit spot for like 5:45. By 11:45, I had sold over 385 bags of fruit. And from that 385 bags of fruit, $214 was profit. So I was making $214 a day selling fruit on the corner. And every morning I had doctors and lawyers used to tell me, brother, you got a work ethic out this world. You need to become, you need to sell some of this here. You know, back in those days, they was just introducing the internet and they were trying to get everybody to join in network marketing. So I joined a whole bunch of network marketing. I sold prepaid legal. I sold Noonie juice. Anything I thought would get me $1 million without selling dope, I was selling it. So I was one of those overzealous brothers who wanted to make a large amount of money. So I was able to be pimped through these networks. So prepaid legal was one of them that took extreme advantage of me. I thought the legal system, you know, you get you a good lawyer, because when I was in the dope game, that was one of the #1 lessons our providers who provided our dope to us taught us. Pay your lawyer in advance. I used to be, nah, I ain't gonna get caught. He said, there's no such thing as you not gonna get caught, man. He said, pay the lawyers now so you ain't gotta pay them later. And that was Cubans teaching us that game, you know? So when I got out of the game and came into the nation, these were different multi-level networks that they were offering us to be able to promote, to make the necessary money that we wanted. I never agreed with a lot of it. One of the things, they never allowed you to get to the top. So that didn't fit too good with me. I always wanted to be on the top. So one of the things I did is I left that and stuck to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me. Do for self. I exited the prepaid legal world. I exited the multi-network marketing world, and I took what I learned from them that I had previously did not know, and I started taking that education and utilizing what I had learned in the mosque. So what prepaid legal networking and marketing taught me was how to get customers. I had previously been taught that, but it wasn't taken serious. The first thing I learned when I first came into the mosque, there was a book that was given to me, written by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It was called How to Steal Away. And in this book, it taught you how to go door to door and get you 100 or more customers. And how to take those customers and sell a message to the Black man to them. How to sell How to Eat to Live, how to sell bean pies. The Steal Away program by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan worked because I took the zeal that I was doing in the level marketing scheme, and I went door to door and built me a customer base. And that's how I started building and relating to my community and becoming strongly networking with brothers and sisters who were not joining the nation, but had favor towards the nation. You know, so that was a blessing. And I had a lot of children. I still do. My young ones at that time was 5, 6 years old, and they wanted to hang with daddy. So as I was going door to door, I would take my sons and their friends, and they would go door to door. And I was just introduced at that time to air fresheners, body oils, and incense, and black soap. So that's how I took and had extra income, because I was taking and I was pushing the program, but I had other products to go along with the program. So when I was going door to door, getting my customer base, I wasn't just pushing final calls. I wasn't just pushing message to the Black man. I wasn't pushing just VCR tapes of Minister Farrakhan. See, in those days, I used to be pushing VCR tapes of the minister. I would knock on the door. Say, you ever heard of Farrakhan? They say, no. I said, well, listen, would you give him an opportunity? They said, yes. I said, well, listen to this VCR tape and I'm gonna come back next week and tell me if you like it. I come back next week, they was like, you got another one? I said, that one $25. Well, give me 2 of them. So going door to door was real profitable for me, you know, and by Allah's permission, I grew and grew to fall in love with it. And then after that, I wanted my own business. So one of the things the minister taught me, he said, brother, you know, at that time, they was trying to get me to go get a GED. I kept saying, I don't want a GED. They said, well, brother, you need a GED. I said, I don't want a GED because I don't ever want to work for the white man. I'm not going to need this piece of paper ever. So I don't need that piece of GED to give to nobody because I'm not going to get no job. So the brother said, what you going to do? I said, man, I'm making good money selling fruit. And as soon as I opened my mouth up, the city came in and wrote up an ordinance where we couldn't sell fruit on the corner no more. So they had just chopped into my income. I'm sitting there living off of my savings now. And one of the things the minister taught us to do is find something you like to do. So what I did is I went volunteer at 2 Black-owned printing companies and learned how to print T-shirts. And that was it. I learned how to print. One brother taught me the old way of how to burn screens through the sunlight, how to build my screens. Mr. Brooke, may Allah be pleased with him. And the other brother, his name was Mr. Paul Dix. He taught me how to do the computer. I didn't know nothing about the computer. But he walked me through it and taught me step by step how to do the computer for screen printing. And so I took and started a screen printing company, and I started selling T-shirts. My first T-shirt was called Conscious, 360 Degrees Supreme Wear. And I used to push that shirt. Brother said, man, why you turn completely around? You supposed to do a 180. I said, I don't want to do a 180, brother. I've done a complete 360. And I wasn't stopping at 180. I've done a 360 physically, and I've done a 360 mentally. You get the whole 720. Stop playing with me. So I was blessed. And at that time, I was studying in the nation. I was studying with some brothers, Malachi, New York. Remember him? His community was right down the street from the mosque. So I studied in the mosque. I studied with Malachi Z. I studied with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was the brother who had came from complete illiteracy. When I came to the mosque, I had just got my hooked on phonics 10 months before coming to the mosque. So January the 10th, 1993, I got hooked on phonics. October the 10th, 1993 is when I met the minister in LA, Savior's Day. The name of that lecture called Healing the Wounds, Crips and Bloods. You know, I witnessed something that helped me facilitate a mind and an attitude that I have been using in New Orleans ever since I went to that lecture. I was able to come back to the city of New Orleans and use what I learned in that one lecture to help squash the beef I had in my community with the brothers I was beefing with. I was able to take that lecture and by Allah's permission, really saved my life. Because I had a contract out on my life at that time, and I used what the minister taught us at that Savior's Day to help facilitate the means of squashing the problem I had with these brothers. You know, I'm a blessed man.
Oh, praises. Yes, sir. But Roosevelt, we have so many people showing you love. Thank you. Maybe say all praises to a lot of people in the comments are showing you love as well. My next, I want to follow up with the beef situation, but I want to ask you about the minister in 1993. What took place and how did that personally impact you?
Say that again?
1993. So you meet the minister. How did that impact you? Like what? Like how did that personally impact you?
Brother, I didn't get to personally meet him. I never met the minister personally, right?
Yes, sir.
I met him through the lecture. I was my first Savior's Day. So I didn't get to meet him. I met him through the message that was directly, I call it a personal message.
Okay,
and,
yes, sir.
It impacted me, but I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for that lecture. You know, that was on the most beautiful. We drove from New Orleans 28 hours. And I was in a vehicle, my van, right? I was driving to see the minister with brothers that was in the mosque who was registered, but I wasn't registered. I didn't trust them. The movie from Malcolm had confused me. So the time I'm driving all the way to LA, they don't even know I'm strapped with a big old pistol. Because I think they're gonna do me something. They might try to do me something. The movie had me confused. And what happened was when I got to to LA and we witnessed the brothers coming into the meeting, and they had brothers trying to get in that meeting with guns. And the brothers were sending the brothers back. I was like, man, this is amazing, And so that was my first time witnessing grown men cry. I watched Crips and Bloods hug and ask forgiveness of one another. So what I witnessed was able to remove the false ego that I had on my shoulders, brother. Because I had an ego on my shoulder. I thought I was invincible at one time. But watching the minister do that with those brothers and watching those brothers adhere to his advice and come together and forgive each other, that was I needed to come back and forgive the brothers who had just previously murdered my brothers. You know, a lot of my friends thought I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You know, they said, you crazy, boy. You could trust that Farrakhan if you want to. Them niggas ain't gonna forgive you, they gonna kill you. I said, well, if I'm gonna die Muslim. I don't care. You know, so everything that happened at that event helped me facilitate my transition from the streets to the mosque. And even in that transition, I still ran into problems. You know, I had to stop selling final calls. I used to go on a corner to sell final calls with the brothers, and some of my previous beef ran up on me with guns. And I went to Minister Howard. He said, brother, you can't sell papers. I felt some type of way, brother. I felt like they was punking me. He told me, you need to go into sabbatical. I said, what the hell is that? He said, don't worry about it. You just can't go outside. He said, you come from your house to the mosque. You can't sell papers. And so for almost a year and a half, 2 years, I couldn't go out and sell papers because Minister Harrell was walking me through a different path. I didn't see it that way at that time. But later he taught me that the hatred and the murder that was in these brothers from me, in time it would reside. And it actually did. You know, by Allah's permission, I can walk the streets of New Orleans and see previous brothers I beef with, and they hug me and they love me, and they appreciate the message that I bring, and they appreciate what God has done for me. You know, because if it wasn't for Allah, brother, I wouldn't be able to walk the streets of New Orleans openly without guns attached to me. You know, that was another thing that Allah blessed me. You know, I didn't want to get rid of my guns. I had to, you know, the minister, you got to get rid of all your guns. In the early days, I didn't believe in Allah like I believe in him now. I thought the gun was my God. Through times, I got rid of the guns. And that was another blessing. Because when trials popped up in my life, I went to reach for the gun. I didn't have one. And I went to go to my friends who I gave the guns to, and they wouldn't give them to me. So that was another blessing, that trials and tribulations surface in your life where Allah bless you to be able to remove things that would have probably put me completely in the penitentiary for the rest of my life, or put me in a situation where I wouldn't have been a reflection of nothing I had been taught. All of what the minister had deposited in me through the study guides, rising above emotion into the thinking of God, all of those lessons had went away. And I was able to bounce back upon what I was being taught, because the friends that I had, and to this day, these brothers are still really my friends, because when I requested the gun from them, he wouldn't give it to me. He told me, let me go do it for you. And I wouldn't tell him my problem, so he never got to go through nothing. And the brother who I had a problem with is living to this day. And I'm thankful to Allah Almighty, because years of study, brother, for you to try to be someone's judge and someone's executioner is a dangerous thing. Brother, none of us should judge another man for what he say, you know. And a lot of what I was upset was not over a person physically touching me or doing me anything. It was more about what he was saying. And I was upset over what was being stated than anything. And the studies that I've now become really acquainted with is that you got to rise above your emotions and deal with the slanderer, the backbiter, the gossiper, the people who can't touch you physically, but will use their tongues to deteriorate your character. And if you can't handle that part, then you can't handle working for God to help Black people. Because Black people will criticize you, will get you all out of character, have you want to do them something. You know, so that's one of the number one reasons I'm grateful to Allah that He demanded that we get rid of guns. That I could become this man that I'm growing in today, to be able to rise above my emotions, to be able to become a critical thinker, and I could use my trials and my tribulations as teachable moments to my youngsters and to my sons to never resort to the gun. If you ain't got it, you won't use it. So it's best to get rid of it. You know, I was listening to a brother, he was dealing with emotion. And he said some of us who was not raised by fathers was never given proper manhood advice. So we was raised by women who we move on our emotion. You know, I never had a father, so I was an emotional brother. And still kind of emotional to this day. I can't, you know, I'm okay, but I'm still an emotional type of brother, man. You know, but I've been blessed to learn how to override my critics. You know, I don't allow them to affect me the way they did in my early days of development. So I'm blessed beyond measure.
Excellent. And Roosevelt, we have some people showing you love all across the country. Sister Linda Bay Graham, teach, brother, teach. Yes, brother, Allah makes us new. Sister Allison, this is a powerful testimony. Brother Nelson Ramos, our brother from Massachusetts, sending greetings. You were teaching, brother. Sister Allison said, Brother Minister Harold saved a lot of people. All praise due to Allah. This is that spiritual literacy is the key to growing and understanding. Temple reading class. Thank you for sharing there, brother. People are showing you love all across the country. And I can't wait to see you on YouTube. Bro, Roosevelt, before we come back, we have a lot of follow-up questions, but I have a quick 60-second commercial break for all sponsors of the People's Podcast. Speaking of economic business, thank you everyone who continues to donate and sponsor Cash App the People's Podcast. We truly appreciate it. 1 second. Here we go.
Brother Rashad Street Premier. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Rock Communications. If you're working on a book and you need copy, editing, project management, content development, or media relations, please reach out to Rock Communications. Student Minister Robert L. Muhammad's Conflict Mediation, squashing the beast throughout the Southwest region. He does a phenomenal job. His wife, Sister Fudia Muhammad's Giving Birth to a God and the Science of Child Rearing. Please make sure you go out and get a copy of her book as well. Fashion Gods, urban streetwear clothing for men and boys. 314-329-6009. He'll keep you dressed in the best of fashion. Brother Kenneth's Bow Tie Maker Extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Taj Hollywood's Chemistry 6 episode, a new television series out on YouTube. He's looking for actors and writers. Make sure you support him. Keep It Hood, helping others overcome depression. Also by Taj Hollywood. Brother Aaron's Elevated Places, stress management, real estate, credit, repair, and restoration. His Respect for Life Center. They do personal wellness, philosophy, emotional, and mental spiritual wellness. 229-344-1474. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 Disinfected Cleaning Services, out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on AdulSharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse, both available on Amazon. If you would like to donate or sponsor, please cash out the People's Podcast.
Perfect. All right. Thank you all the sponsors and anonymous donors all across the country. And right back to Brother Roosevelt. Okay. Yes, sir. So I wanted to ask you about Minister Harold and Lobby Please with him. I got to spend quite a bit of time with him when he came to Atlanta, and he was in the ministry class, and he would teach on Wednesday, Fridays. He would teach on Sundays. And I just like picking his brain because I like history, and he was a historian. For those who may not know Minister Harold, what would you tell them about his legacy and who he was?
Man, he came to the city of New Orleans and took a study group and turned it into a mosque of over 100 believers. And the training that he did, I was in the ministry class, and he was so studious. The things that I hold dear today of some of the books he advised me on, the manner in which he taught me how to administer, the suffering that comes with being a minister in the Nation of Islam and not allowing it to make you a bitter person. That man was the embodiment of love under torture. That man taught me so much. I remember when the ministry class was over and he dispersed different brothers to go to cities. I remember Brother Lawrence had to go to Monroe, Brother Brian had to go to Texas, and he was telling every brother to go. You know, he really took the whole ministry class and gave them a location to go to. And he was trying to get me to go to Monroe. But my children were so young, I would say, brother, I'm not leaving my children. And he was like, well, brother, what you gonna do? I said, let me tell you, I didn't have a father. But when I did get to meet my father and talk to him, he gave me something that I will always hold on to. It was called out of mind, out of sight. He said, when I moved out of the state of New Orleans and moved to Baton Rouge, y'all were out of sight. And I started a new life, so y'all were out of mind. And my mom never attacked him for child support, so he started a whole new life. And I got to meet him, you know, right before the Million Man March, we had to go through the process of atonement. And the minister told us, whoever we have offended or whoever we had a problem with, we should get to them. And I had an extreme hatred for my father. So I had to go and drive an hour to Baton Rouge to ask my father for forgiveness for the hatred I had in my heart for him so that I could have a good journey to the Million Man March. My father accepted that. But when I got back from the march, I became really acquainted with him and learned as much as I could from him. And he taught me that particular part of the life of never allowing your children to leave your sight. So that's what made me not take the ministry of leaving New Orleans and starting a study group in another location, because I had babies at that time. And I'm grateful I did not leave my babies because they fashioned my life. You know, you're looking at that YP on that wall stand for young professionals.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
After the Million Man March, the YP was created. You know, we were teaching boys to become men in over 8 different churches throughout the city of New Orleans before the Catholic Church sent a decree that we could no longer do it. But I never lost my zeal to want to help young people. I wanted to help them avoid the street life that I had previously escaped. So by Allah's permission, I created the Young Professionals, you know, and from that, I've been doing it 20-something years. And it has given me a definite purpose. You know, Katrina hit, and I was privileged to come to Atlanta and learn from the brothers in Atlanta. And Atlanta was an education for me, Black man. Man, I learned a lot. And when I left Atlanta, you know, it was a beautiful journey because I was coming back to help rebuild New Orleans. But something that happened, I wanted to say that, like you was talking about your sponsors. For Katrina, I lost everything I owned. My businesses was gone, went underwater. I didn't have anything, no money, nothing. Minister Farrakhan sent me a cashier's check for $10,000 to help relaunch my business. And brother, I am so grateful for that man, because the government wouldn't give me no assistance. I have never worked for no man a day of my life. So I had no taxes in the government system as a living tax-paying citizen. So when they tapped into the program to see who they could give money to, who had paid taxes, I wasn't in there. So they refused to give me any type of aid. The only aid I received was the $10,000 that I received from Minister Farrakhan to help rebuild my life and my businesses. I did receive an emergency $2,000 that they gave to everybody, but after that, I didn't get no assistance from the government and have never received any assistance from the government. So I'm blessed to have a multi-million-dollar business by the grace of Minister Farrakhan, gracing me with $10,000 to relaunch what I have. And it was a blessing because I didn't know what I was going to do. And by Allah's permission, he gave me that, and I have bounced back and duplicated that, and duplicated that, and duplicated that, And so anything you see that I have, material-wise, possession, you have to give that to my lender, the man who lent me $10,000. I would say lend it to me because my intention is to give it back to him twofold. I'm grateful. So I thank Minister Farrakhan for sponsoring my life, for sponsoring my relaunch into a business after losing everything after Katrina.
Beautiful, beautiful, Roosevelt, beautiful. And Sister Alice in Allah walk by his name, and says all praise due to Allah. People just showing you love all across the country. Excellent. All right, now I wanted to ask you, sir, the first interview that we did with you, which was great, it's on YouTube. Please go back and watch People's Podcast. First interview we did with Brother Roosevelt. You had a different haircut, right? What was it that transpired to say, boom, you want to go just full fade with this in your life at this point in your life now?
Recommitment. A month or so ago, I still had a little cuckoo in me. I still had some dreadlocks running around here, promoting with my sons and stuff like that. But Minister Farrakhan demanded us to recommit ourselves. So I was doing decent work in the community based upon my program, but it wasn't a reflection of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as being a groomed, clean, reflective Black man. And so many people know me from being a Black man in the FOI uniform, with a suit and bow tie on. And so I did the dreadlocks for my youth and the ones I was working with to be in their culture among them. But at some point, I had to clean that image up and get back in my true uniform and get myself back in sync with where my heart and my mind is. So you see me now back in uniform because this is where my heart and my mind is. And I couldn't go to see my commander-in-chief looking like a werewolf. By no means. So the minister calling all of us back to account and us going to Chicago reunited my spirit to give what I truly understand. These teachings are the only solution for the inner city youth. The only solution because it gives the necessary discipline, and you were saying something about information and inspiration. All information, when applied, become information. When you receive information, and if you apply it, you fall information to the information you receive. So based upon how that information was given to you, you can make that information fall into formation to better your life. And that was one of the greatest lessons Minister Harold was able to give to me, how to take the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and make them fall in formation to application. And I don't have any Caucasian accolades that I can lean on. I don't have his GED, his degrees. I don't have none of that. So everything I possess of my businesses comes from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I have not allowed myself, even through my ups and downs financially, to ever allow me to get a job. I stayed the course of doing for self. You know, at one point I had to get behind the lawnmower. I had a brother one day, I was cutting grass and said, brother, what you doing out there cutting grass? I said, man, nobody gonna pay me $45 for 35 minutes. And I needed to rebuild the financial structure of my life. So I went back to the basics. Even though printing and marketing is what I love to do, I couldn't do it without going back to the basics. So I run a landscaping company, a printing company, a marketing company, an entrepreneur boys and girls club, where every youngster that joins my club get a business the day they join. And I teach them the same thing I was taught. There's only one difference. We had to go door to door to get 100 customers. My youngsters got to go door to door to get 100 life links. So a life link is an individual person, man or woman, who agrees to spend $10 a month with a young person. They can pick from air fresheners, body oils, or soap, or get a t-shirt. But you have to find some means to spend money with them, or you cannot open your mouth as criticism for the illegal behavior they're participating in. So many people want to look at young people. When you see young people in the street doing desperate things, know that they don't have any guardians. Know that they don't have a parent or a mother who have proper guardians. They might have a parent or a mother, but their job is going to a job. So they can't guide them to get the necessary things they want because they stuck on a job just over broke. So one of the things is finding unique ways to direct your children on how to earn extra money. Teach them how to bake and go sell brownies and start a brownie company. Stop letting you look down on small things that we call, oh yeah, I don't want to sell brownies. Man, think about 1,000 brownies you sell in 3-4 days. If you teach them how to properly assess financially, to do mathematics, Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam. So if you get them to respect the 24 hours, 8 for sleep, 8 for education, and 8 for go and get it. So if you get them to respect the hours they've been given, you allow them to play on the PlayStation for 8 hours. Get them programmed to how to kill people for 8 hours. Because if they're playing San Andreas or Fortnite, they're learning how to kill. And it's only going to take one day for to piss them off and they're going to shoot somebody or they're going to harm somebody. They're like programmed robots for destruction. So as parent figures, we're responsible to have the resources to help them implement their ideas. These children are geniuses. You know, my wife showed me something on Instagram that blew me away. They have a young lady who was making candles, but it looked just like different chicken and every different thing you can name. She had a candle that was designed to smell like whatever item she wanted it to smell like. I said, man, that's a genius. But how many of us go out and support the young ones? So the thing is when you see a young person putting forward the effort, even if they're asking you for $1, you know, in my class, I teach the threes. There's 3 things you should learn. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. Ask and you shall receive.
Absolutely.
If you're not using those 3 methods, don't look for nothing. Those 3 methods right there work every time. Because if you ask, do you know at least 3 out of 10 people gonna give? So let's get to the averages. If you learn how to ask appropriately with a proper demand, with attachment to what you asking, if it's a profit or if it's a benefit to the person you asking, 7 out of 10 times the person going to receive you and support you. It's just that you haven't trained our youth how to properly go into the community and present a product that's beneficial to the person you asking to support you. So you just got to be able to go back to some of those great books I read. You know, one of them is in the Bible. It deals with the salesman. You ever heard of the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's a biblical book, man. But we don't know how to correlate the information in today's time. You don't allow our youth to become microwave minded and they want to get rich off of becoming Instagram famous. They want to become rich off of becoming, you know, influencers. You know, so they do any filthy and indecent thing to become an influencer so that they can get paid from being an influencer. Those days are over with. Our wealth today can only come from unity. You know, so if you want the blueprint of what I have, you got to join this Mastermind network. And when you join the Mastermind network, you get access to all of the other members who can help you. Think about if you was in your city right now, you could start a Mastermind network of businesses who need advertisement, who need customers. Get those people to agree to give you a finder's fee. And every time you send them a customer, they got to break bread or give you your finder's fee. So think about if you had everybody within your Mastermind network, every youngster that's inside your network, only refer to people who's a part of your Mastermind network, but that network has to financially reward them for the people that go to them. Every Mastermind network need a lawyer, a dentist, an accountant, a tutor, a landscaper, a roofer, electric, plumber, mechanic. You could just have all of the basic needs that we have to participate in to survive in this economy. And all we have to do is agree to the referral process and everybody eat. The person that's a part of the network ain't got to be able to do none of those things. All they got to do is be a professional referral. I'm a pro referral.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All I do is refer people. The only way you get cut out of the network if you don't give me my refinder's fee. So, and you know, you got greedy people who want to keep the whole thing to themselves but wouldn't have been able to eat at all if I wouldn't have referred the person.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
now
sir.
they don't
yes,
want to give me my piece. So now they get cut out of the network. They can't even be a part of the Mastermind network because greed, which is a disease, has hindered them from participating in what was created. So the Mastermind network is a unique network of professional businesses that agree to keep it professional. That's going to give that finder's fee. So if I refer you, brother, cash out me my $5. I don't want to hear it. Give me. So think about if you got 100 or 2 brothers in the network or 100 youngsters in the network. You know, one of the beautiful things is when the youngsters go door to door, if they get that person who they went door to door to get their grass cut by one of the brothers in the business network, they get $5 every time that person get that grass cut. Because that person is really that's their life link. That
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
life link don't belong to that person who getting the grass cut. The person cutting the grass, no, that's not your person. That's my person. I'm giving you a privilege to service my person.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
if
sir.
you don't want to give me my $5, I'm gonna go ahead and turn him into another brother that's in the network that cut grass. So you got to learn how to keep all of your life links to yourself. Let that person know I am your professional servant. Anything you need in your life, call me. I got professional people in my network that I can provide for you who's going to do an above and a beyond job. So you don't never let your life link go. So the brother who's doing the mechanic work for your life link, that ain't their customer, that's your customer. The person who's doing the mechanic work is just doing a service for you. If you get a bad referral from that person, you go to that person who's doing the mechanic work in your network and say, brother, I got a bad report. You need to get that right or you getting up out of here. It's called the Better Business Bureau of Black people, the 4 Bs, the Black
Yes,
Better
sir.
Business Bureau. And we kick you out of the network fast, quick, and in a hurry.
Okay, excellent. But Roosevelt, for people who are in New Orleans, what is the website? What's the phone number? How can people contact you?
Man, I had my website up, but the brother who was monitoring it went cuckoo on me.
Okay.
So right now we don't have a website.
Yes, sir.
Normally my Instagram is YP_movement. The Y stand for young, the P stand for professionals, the underscore stand for underscore and movement.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. Let's make sure we support Brother Roosevelt. His efforts, the success that you're doing, and that hopefully this can be multiplied all across the country. But I know from doing interviews and studying my parents and studying the teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the importance of every time you see a successful Black man or a strong Black man, that there's a woman with him, beside him, or next to him, or having his back. How important has your wife been to your success, sir?
Well, that woman, I done been married a couple of times, brother. So you got to make sure that you do due diligence in your picking. All right? Because everybody ain't with you, for you, and go along with you.
Yes, sir.
This
Yes, sir.
Black woman God is sent to me. I don't know, brother. She was specially made. I'm so blessed. Being mentally yoked. We were not mentally yoked in the spiritual realm first. We were mentally yoked in the business realm first. So both of us having like minds in business, and she's being able to do the type of business that I do, was the kindling of a unique relationship. And if she wasn't in the nation at the time, but I knew that I needed her to be in the nation. And so what I would do is every Sunday I would turn Ishmael on, and that would became our ritual. She got to watch Ishmael with Brother Crazy. You know, I was crazy at the moment, but I don't care how crazy I am. The only solution to my life is the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I don't have a life. As far as I could fall, if I'm attached to these teachings, I'm gonna keep a degree of sanity. So even though I was out among my youngsters, you know, my hair all over my head and looking crazy, the teachings is my foundation. So when Allah blessed me with this woman, I knew that I could not survive without her being in sync with these teachings. So what I would do is I couldn't just force her to come to the mosque, but I knew if I turned the minister on, she would listen. So for almost 2 years, our ritual was every Sunday. You got to listen to Ishmael. So Ishmael converted my wife. And then she wanted to go to the mosque herself. And by Allah's permission, that's how it happened. But the business portion of my life improved, amplified overnight because of this woman. I wouldn't have nothing. I have had it, but it wasn't properly managed and maintained the way it is now. So having equally yoked, 100 and 100. Some people say 50-50. I'm Mr. 100. You got to give me 100. I'm going to give you 100. So that portion of her being able to come in and help me in the business realm, and her being able to be patient with me. You know, she said I'll be patient with her, but I'm a driver, brother. I'm a workaholic. You know, I find pleasure in work. You know, so sometimes it's like she be ready to go out the shop. I'm like, we working. I don't want to hear nothing else. I love work, but she is so much of a balance for me now. You know what I'm saying? That I'm grateful to Allah. I'm grateful and thankful to Allah that he didn't send me a wife that was just to be a wife. He sent me a business partner. He sent me a vibe, a purity vibe, you know, and that arguing and all of that. When two people agree, you know, I still have my way to highway, my way to highway. You know, I get crazy sometimes, but she is my balance. And she loves the teachings, you know, so that part played a tremendous part. That I've had other believing women in my life, but we couldn't see eye to eye business-wise. And that's because I had a white man educated woman and I wasn't an educated man. So sometimes our vantage points on how to go about things business-wise never, ever cohesive with one another. Because I always had to try to get it approved the white man's method way instead of my method way. So that didn't work. So now that I'm able to emphasize the importance of doing it the way I know and having a woman that agree and see that this way is the best way. If I've been able to hold myself down for 29 years without working for the white man, without becoming homeless, without ever have to go get a job, I got some sense. So now I take my mental sense and apply those mental sense, turn it into some financial sense. So that was the blessing. I'm thankful to Allah who came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad for this Black woman I got right now. And pray that she stay right now forever, forever.
Beautiful. All praises due to Allah. And people showing you love all across the country saying, Sister Allison, and this is wonderful. Sister Linda Bay Graham saying yes. Well, on that positive note, Bro Roosevelt, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. I look forward to meeting you, seeing you in person, inshallah, and meeting your sons and your family. You always have a positive spirit. May Allah continue to bless you. You inspire me, and I know you inspire others all across the country. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam, soldier.
Yes, sir.
And give the greens to your dad, man. Hug him for me.
Yes, sir, I will. Done deal, done deal.
All right, assalamu alaikum, God body.